Welcome back to Hudson Appliance for another episode of Wicked Good Food. I'm your host, Matt Williams, and it's hot out today. And I'm glad we planned this a little while ago, but I'm psyched that we are doing ice cream toppings today. Ice cream is one of my all-time favorite things to eat. I love to make it, but I love sauces. I love to make a sundae. I don't always get it, but you can't beat a sundae. Good ice cream, good sauce, good whipped cream, all that stuff. So I thought we'd make 5 different things today that are a little bit out of the ordinary. We've made chocolate sauce in the show before, and we've made caramel and things, and we'll probably make different versions of them again. But today, we're actually going to make a homemade peanut butter sauce, which is what actually my total absolute favorite topping for ice cream. We're going to make a homemade, just whipped by hand whipped cream. We're going to add a little bit of espresso powder to that, just to make a little bit different kind of whipped cream. We're going to make homemade magic shell. You know that stuff that you pour over the ice cream and all of a sudden it gets hard? It's actually incredibly easy to make. We're going to make that. We're going to make another one of my favorites, which is a coffee syrup. And what else are we going to make? I forgot already. Oh, we're going to make some homemade butterscotch. So we've got a lot to do, but they're actually all pretty simple dishes. First thing we're going to start with is going to be our peanut butter sauce. So I have my pan just warming up here. I'm going to warm it up a bit more. And I'm going to add about 2 ounces of butter to the pan. I'm going to add about 3/4 of a cup or so of heavy cream. And I'm going to scrape it to get all the goodness out of there. And I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of corn syrup. This is light corn syrup. One of the beauties of using corn syrup is that it doesn't have any flavor. It's just sweetness, and it's very clear, and it's already totally dissolved. So I'm going to turn our heat up a little bit more on this guy. And we want to let it just start to warm up. So the only other ingredients that are going to go in here are peanut butter. I've got 1.5 cups or so of peanut butter that we're going to put in, and we're going to put in a little bit of my homemade vanilla extract here. But we're not going to add it at this point. We're actually going to let all this cook, let all these flavors combine, our butter totally melt and emulsify. Then we're going to add our peanut butter after it cools down. If you add it, you can totally add it at this point, but I find that the texture gets really, really stiff and that the color gets pretty dark. So by adding it later, we'll kind of maintain this beautiful color. It's still going to have a little graininess to it, which is okay with me. Most of the peanut butter sauce that I eat and that I've had has some graininess to it. Yeah, perfect. So this is just melting. All right, so the next thing we're going to make, and I'm actually warm up our pan a little bit. Oops, wrong one. Is we're going to make a coffee syrup. So coffee syrup is the only, I don't know if you realize this, but the only place in the world that they do it, as far as I know, is Rhode Island. And it wasn't something that I grew up with unless one of our friends went to Rhode Island, they'd bring back a bottle of coffee syrup, and I loved it. And I was like, I can't get it at the supermarket, so I decided I'm going to teach myself how to make it. So the recipe I came up with, which is actually in my book, is this. I've got about 2 cups of coffee here, which we brewed earlier. Just regular coffee, not decaf or anything like that. And I'm going to pour that right into our pan. I've got a shot of espresso, which we're going to pour right into the pan. Oh, that's strong stuff. I can smell it. That's great. We're going to put almost 1.5 cups of sugar into our pan. And the last thing we're going to add is some of my homemade vanilla. This is some vanilla I've been working on it's been in here probably 18 months or so. But we're going to add a tablespoon or so. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll taste it, and if we want a little more, we'll add a little bit more. But now we're going to let this warm up some more. Let it come up to a simmer. So if you look back here at what's going to be our peanut butter sauce, you'll see if I scrape the bottom here, that our sugar hasn't quite dissolved all the way. It's almost there, but there's a little granularness to it. So what we're going to do is let this cook until it's totally dissolved. Let this come up to a simmer. We're going to simmer 5 minutes or so, make sure our sugar is totally dissolved in there, which is what's going to give us that syrupy texture. And then this will be done. We'll add our peanut butter to this, and we'll keep moving. So we'll be back in a minute. All right, so I cleaned up my mess a little bit here. We're totally dissolved, starting to cool down here in what's gonna be our peanut butter sauce. You should smell it in this room now. This coffee is awesome. I had it just below a simmer. I turned it down a bit. I think I turned it down too much. I'm gonna warm it up a little bit. We just wanna let it simmer. It'll actually reduce just a little bit, but all that sugar melting is gonna make a great syrup. So we're here talking about ice cream. We're here on Main Street in Hudson. So we're very fortunate today to have a special guest. So I'd like to welcome Kareem over, who's one of the co-owners of New City Micro Creamery, which is right up the road. So you guys just opened not too long ago.
That's right. We're very new in town. Very happy to be here.
Well, I'm really happy he's here because I hadn't tried any of your product before, and Arthur went and got some for the show, and I tasted a little bit, and it was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
No, it really, I feel bad about putting toppings on it. It was so good. Like you guys, this is really good.
No, we encourage it. We always think that even a great flavor, toppings on top just takes it places you didn't think it could go.
On top takes it, right?
That's always okay.
So it was awesome. Why is your ice cream so good?
I would say what makes our ice cream different from anywhere else is that first of all, we do use farm fresh milk. We source it locally from Massachusetts, and everything else is done in-house, right in front of your eyes. You can see it, but what really makes it extra unique is our freezing process. And the faster you can freeze ice cream, the smaller the crystalline structure, and the smoother it is on your tongue. Gives it that nice creamy texture, that mouthfeel that you're going for in ice cream. And so the fastest way we researched and figured out to make it, to freeze it, was using liquid nitrogen. And no one else is doing that big batch the way we are. We're making big batches. We're freezing it right there in front of your eyes, and instead of the typical kind of ice cream machines that would take 20, 30 minutes to freeze a batch, we're taking 4 or 5 minutes. So you get a really nice, dense, creamy ice cream. And I think that's what really sets us apart. Then we also let it cure for several days so that it absorbs the flavors, using natural flavors, vanilla bean, or if we're mixing funky things like maybe fennel and pistachio, or you know, sometimes just comfort food like peanut butter and fudge.
So how many different flavors do you have? Or is it always changing?
It's always changing. At any one time, we would have 20 that we're serving, and probably 8 more in the back that as we finish, we'll put new ones out. So our board is constantly changing with new flavors. That's
cool. So you haven't been open all that long, but how much milk are you going through a week?
Oh, I think we're at 500 gallons right now.
That's a lot of milk.
It's a lot of milk. I mean, those farms are coming in with trucks all the time, it seems.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we're definitely going to have some of it today.
Great. But great.
No, this is great. I'd encourage people to go and check it out. The sample I had was great. I cannot wait to sample some more.
Yeah, come down with your family. We're open every day right on Main Street in Hudson, Mass.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
It smells great in here.
All right. It does indeed. So we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to making our butterscotch sauce, and I cannot wait to try some more of this ice cream. All right, so Kareem just took off. It was great for him to come by, and really, I can't say how impressed I was with the ice cream. I've got our coffee syrup cooling down now, so it's really hot, it's very liquidy. This is not going to be real thick like some of these other sauces we're going to make. It's going to be a syrup consistency, but once it cools down, it will get a little bit thicker. Our peanut butter sauce is starting to cool off enough. We'll be able to add our peanut butter to that in just a minute. But over here, I have a pan that's just warming up. I'm going to warm it up a little bit more. And this is going to be our butterscotch sauce. So for our butterscotch sauce, we're going to add butter. No scotch, though. We're going to add butter, about 2 ounces of butter. And we're going to let that melt real quick. And so butterscotch is one of those, I think, is kind of underrated. I think we see tons of caramel everywhere. I don't know why we don't see more butterscotch, because I love it. Just such great flavor. We'll let this melt a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our brown sugar. So here I have dark brown sugar. It's a cup of it that I packed pretty well. Whenever you're measuring brown sugar by the cup, you always want to pack it in there. Really push it in there pretty hard. That way it's always a consistent cup. You guys know that I like to always weigh stuff when I bake, when I'm looking for that exact right proportion. But for something like this, whenever you weigh brown sugar, or whenever you measure brown sugar, always jam it into the cup real well. So now I'm going to add our brown sugar here. And just break it up a bit. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to allow this sugar to melt. We're going to let it melt completely, and actually we'll start to caramelize just a little bit. So brown sugar is essentially white sugar, regular granulated sugar, that they add a little bit of molasses back to. And so molasses is actually a byproduct of making white sugar. So they actually make white sugar, put a little bit of molasses back to it. It gives it more flavor, it gives it more moisture, and it's another great sweetener. So we're going to let this sit, and you'll see that as it looks just kind of a little bit moist now, and there's still a couple of little hunks of butter that haven't totally melted. As it sits, eventually it's going to turn into a liquid. So we're going to let that be. We're going to move on to our peanut butter sauce while our butterscotch is melting a bit. So for our peanut butter sauce, we're going to add our peanut butter. So I'm just going to scrape it right in, and this is I actually don't even remember what brand. One of those childhood favorite brands. Creamy, no sugar added, not low fat, not anything like that. You could use a less fat one. Don't use a less fat one. Just buy the real stuff and use less of it if you want less fat. You can use a lower sugar one or a natural one. Just try to make sure you find something that's really creamy, and then you can adjust the amount of corn syrup that you put in to get it just to the right sweetness that you want. Because you might find you want it sweeter than I do or not. All right, so now I'm going to switch from my rubber scraper to my whisk. I just want to beat this up. You can already see the color starting to change a little bit. And it's going to thicken quite a bit as we go. You know what, we can speed up the process over here a little bit and get it up to almost medium-high-ish heat. So I'm always amazed at the thickening power of peanut butter. It really thickens very, very well. You know, I grew up thinking of peanut butter as something that you would only have on a sandwich, essentially. But, you know, there's a lot of cuisines around the world that use peanuts as a very important part of it. Now check it out. Look how beautiful and smooth that got all of a sudden. Just like that. Now the liquid that I put this in is not totally cold. It was room temperature, maybe just a little bit warm. But the key is you just don't want it to be hot. Yeah, that's great. Perfect. That is going to drop beautifully on my ice cream. So this is done. So I'll move this one out of the way. So we've got 2 of our 5 things done. Our coffee syrup is done. Peanut butter sauce is done. We'll come over here and take a look at our butterscotch. So to make butterscotch and actually go through the process of melting it and getting it to be exactly the right consistency does take a little bit of practice. But what you want to do is just watch. See how it kind of looks like wet sand? Like almost like really dark wet sand if you were down in the ocean and a big wave just came in and you scooped it up with your hand. So it still has that graininess to it. That's good, that means it's on its way, but it hasn't quite gotten to the temperature where we want it to yet. So we're going to keep watching this just probably for another minute, maybe 2 minutes, until it stops looking like this, and it's going to look much more like a liquid, like this molten liquid. So we'll keep an eye on that. Then the next thing we're going to add to it is heavy cream. So I've got about 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream here. And like I was saying, there's a kind of like the perfect temperature you want to add it to. You could use a candy thermometer if you wanted, but we're just going to do it by eye. But make sure you have your cream ready, because believe it or not, you get this right to the point where you want it to be. You walk away to go pour your cream, that extra minute, this is going to rise another 10, 15, 20 degrees, and you're going to end up with a different texture. You can even start to get some off flavors, some burnt flavors, a little bit of bitterness. So we're not quite there yet. It smells good. You can smell it. Now it smells almost like kind of almost like caramel because we are heating these sugars. All caramel is melted sugar that's started to turn color. It's turned a caramel color, and that happens anywhere between 340 and 360 degrees or so. So just as a point of reference, that's as hot as a deep fryer is. A deep fryer usually is about 350 degrees. All right, so we are good here. So now I'm going to pull it off the heat, and we're going to add all our cream right at once. So, and you want to be careful, as I said, add it all once, and I didn't do it. You want to be careful that steam doesn't shoot out and get you. Now what's going to happen is, we just added this cream, the temperature of our pan is going to drop. The temperature of our sugar is going to drop, and it's not going to be totally dissolved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple minutes and keep stirring this off the heat until it all comes back together, our sugar redissolves. We'll get this back and let it finish cooking, and we'll make our last two items.
Is that like instant coffee but espresso?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
All right, our butterscotch has all totally dissolved. It's cooked for about 10 minutes. It's nice and smooth now. So now what we're going to do is I just shut the heat off, let it sit for a couple minutes. I'm still going to add a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of salt to that, but we'll let it cool off a little bit. We'll add that a little at a time, taste it until we get it just right. Next thing we're going to make is some magic shell, really quick. You can make magic shell literally with just some chocolate and some coconut oil, but I think this, we're going to get a little bit better texture by doing a little extra work. We're going to use a little bit of corn syrup and a better quality chocolate. This is a 70% cocoa chocolate, nice dark chocolate, but you can play around and get whatever type of chocolate you want. We're going to add a little salt. So first thing we're going to do is, this is a cup of coconut oil. So you can see it's solid. So coconut oil is loaded with saturated fat. Saturated fat is what is going to make this turn solid, because when it gets cold, it's going to turn solid. So even at room temperature, it's a solid, but it'll get hard. Now this won't be as quick as like the commercial magic shell or the chocolate dips that you get. It won't set up in like the 5 or 6 seconds. This will take 30 seconds or so, but still it's well worth it. This is actually a virgin coconut oil. If you can find one that's designed for a high heat, it actually is a little bit better because it'll have a little bit less coconut flavor. But if you like that coconut flavor, have the coconut flavor. Then here I've got corn syrup. Gonna add that, which is gonna help with our texture a little bit and give us some sweetness. I'm gonna put in a moderate-sized pinch of salt. This is kosher salt, which I like to use, but since I was putting it in there, I kind of rubbed it between my fingers to give it a little head start on breaking up those crystals. And the last thing we're going to add is our chocolate. So you want to cut your chocolate relatively small, because we're actually going to cook this right in the microwave. If for some reason you don't have a microwave, you can do it right on top of the stove on like a double boiler. You just don't want to heat your chocolate too much. All you're looking to do is to incorporate these things and to melt your chocolate. Man, that butterscotch smells great. There we go. So we'll add our chocolate right here. And I don't know if I said this is about 8 ounces of chocolate. So the microwave's down below me here. I'm gonna mix this together, microwave it in like 15-second blast or so, just until it melts. I'm gonna get my frozen bowl out of the freezer. With our whipped cream, we'll start to whip up our cream. We'll get Arthur up here, and we'll go to town on some New City ice cream with some of our toppings. Hey, Arthur.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks again for having me back at Hudson Appliance.
It's always a pleasure, and I understand you met a good friend of mine from the new ice cream place up the street.
I certainly did. We had some great New City Creamery ice cream here, and what I did was I created 5 different things to throw on top of it. Not to throw on top of it, to put on top.
Put on top.
First one, so this is our magic shell that I finished, and I put it in a squeeze bottle so we can actually squeeze it on. So this is like that stuff you get at the supermarket, you put it on and it hardens. So we'll put a little bit on top like this, and we'll just give it a moment and watch. It'll turn, see how it looks really like shiny?
Yeah.
And we'll just give it, it's gonna start, you can already see it starting to.
Just like the stuff that they dip the cones in?
Exactly, exact same stuff. So if you wanted to make your own like little ice cream bars, you could form in like a popsicle thing, dip them right in this, and make your own little ice cream bars.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that cool? We can put a little more on there too. So we'll try that in a second. This is a homemade butterscotch. Really deep, dark color. This is a peanut butter sauce.
Ooh, it smells unbelievable.
And I heard you liked. All right, our butterscotch has all totally dissolved. It's cooked for about 10 minutes. It's nice and smooth now. So now what we're gonna do is I just shut the heat off, coffee flavored stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have here just whipped cream that I just really whipped by hand with some instant espresso powder in it. Just a little bit different twist on whipped cream. And this is a coffee syrup. So it's really loose, it's really thin, but one of my favorite things to do was to put it on my vanilla ice cream and just mix it all together to make like coffee ice cream.
Cool.
But yeah, so, well, you want to try some of this magic shell first?
Try that.
Let's see if you can break through it.
Oh.
Isn't that cool? Like it
Yeah, it's really cool.
really turns solid. And you can actually see, you know, that solid piece.
That's good. That's really good. And it has a little coconut flavor in it?
Exactly. It does because it's made with coconut oil.
Oh, cool.
So my Aunt Pam, who's here running the camera right now, said her favorite is butterscotch on chocolate ice cream. So I think we're gonna put a little bit of the butterscotch on the chocolate ice cream, and we'll try that. How's that?
Okay.
I'll just put a little on the side because we can use this for a couple flavors if you want.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
These ice are hot. The ice cream melts in quick.
Oh, that is incredible.
We'll give it to Aunt Pam. That is a good combination right there, huh?
Yep.
And so if you want, we can go ahead and put peanut butter on the chocolate. That's a pretty good combination, right?
Yeah. I think it's a good combination with ice cream.
All right, go ahead, get right in there.
Oh, that's delicious. That is delicious. That's
And it's good. So one of the things that's really cool is you can make like your own ice cream cake. Put a layer of this chocolate ice cream, then put a layer of this peanut butter sauce. Build it so that when you're ready to serve it to a party, all these layers are in there like you've made your own ice cream almost.
So I can wait and you can make one of those for me?
I can make one of those. So we'll put a little bit of this syrup. We can drizzle some right on top. And this is going to be perfect after the show for your coffee milk. I hear you're a coffee milk guy.
I love coffee. That's delicious too. I'm gonna try some of that.
Of course, we'll put, you know, let's put a little of the whipped cream right on top of this with the coffee syrup. A lot to taste today. But get that coffee right away. All right, so that whipped cream. I put some of that espresso powder in there, and you get that punch of that coffee right away. So what do you think?
Now that's
Wicked good.